What is the difference between different types of past life regression techniques, such as lives between lives, or the past life regression technique from Weiss, or quantum healing techniques from Dolores Cannon, or when you do it just on your own? I have done over 100 past life regression sessions on myself, and today in this video I want to break it down for you to understand which one would suit you the most. If you are new to past life regression, maybe you've never done it and you're curious about it, or maybe you've done it once, you tried it and it didn't help. In the very first part, I want to explain what past life regression truly is, and also who is it even good for? Who can even do it? Can anyone do it, or just a selected few? So past life regression is really nothing more than tapping into your subconscious level. So you have 4 different levels in you. You have beta brainwaves. This is the most conscious part of you. And people who are very analytical, they are predominantly in beta brainwaves. These are these type of people who are always skeptical. They always have to think about stuff. And these are the type of people who will struggle the most to connect to these deeper parts, because they are basically connected to the top. They are very connected to this prefrontal cortex that's predominantly focuses on disconnecting from the emotional part, from the subconscious part, where these memories are. And underneath beta, we have alpha brainwaves. This is our upper part of the subconscious. When you do hypnotherapy, this is where they take you. And also certain part of the even past life regression therapy can't take you to alpha brainwaves. And underneath alpha, you have theta brainwaves. This is where most of the past life regression therapies are going to take you, especially quantum healing therapy. And what you have to truly understand is that that's why they took so slow. It's basically mimicking the pattern or the rhythm of this brainwave. And this is exactly where you are when you are dreaming as well, in theta brainwaves. And when you look at small children, they are predominantly in theta brainwaves as well. That's why most of the records where people were able to remember their past lives, they were children, because theta brainwaves. And underneath that, we have delta brainwaves. But this is not something where a past life regression therapist would take you. So in summary, during a past life regression session, you are listening to these deeper parts of you, to the emotional parts of you. And according to where you are the most connected to, you are able to listen to whatever is basically underneath. So if you are able to move in a range, so you are more integrated, you are able to move from beta to alpha to theta easily, because you have done a lot of work. So it's not luck. It's not someone who has born with it. It's a lot of practice. And this is what you have to understand about this, that anybody can do it, but maybe not at the same degree. And for some people, it's going to be more difficult as well. So basically, this is a skill that you can practice. And for some people, it's going to come very easily. And for some people, it's going to be very difficult. So for example, Weiss, who is, in my opinion, an amazing past life regression therapist, was a very analytical person. He didn't even want to do past life regression therapies. He studied hypnotherapy and he wanted to be a hypnotherapist. And he changed his mind from the experiences people had and the success people had with past life regression, by the way. And when he tried it on himself, because he was very, very analytical, he said he had to keep trying it for over 30 days, every single day, to even get something. So this is what you have to understand, that maybe you try past life regression, and for you it will take a very, very long time to even get a little bit of information. And for some people, it comes like this. They can get connected to straight away. And the reason for that is that because you have to connect to the emotional part. So if you are able to connect to your emotions naturally, very, very easily, it's going to be a lot easier for you to gain insights. And this is the other very important thing about past life regression, that it's not really about what you see predominantly. It's exactly the same as with dreaming. It's that your internal self is trying to tell you something, but it's via emotions. So the head is the one that is related to communication, talking, but the emotional self, I'm not touching the body because it's going to be very connected to your heart. This is where the traumas are going to communicate to you by reliving. So when you go really, really deep, you get more information, in a sense that you feel it. And when you feel it and you relive it, basically, there is a richer and deeper story behind it. So, for example, I was able to recall memories so vividly that I was smashing mugs. I was so upset. I could feel my own emotions, but I could also feel the weight of the mug in my hands. So let's talk about the differences, and at the end I'm going to tell you how it's the best in my opinion, because I've got a lot of experience in it. So the very first type is the free version. Basically, when you go on YouTube and you look up these DIY hypnotherapy or past life regression sessions, and there are two different types of that. One of them is the guided one, when they keep telling you what to imagine, there is music, and the person is talking really slow, and they basically guide you to get memories. The second one is when you don't have any narration, you only have the music. And if you are just starting to do this, I highly recommend you to do the guided one first, quite a few times, and only after that do it without any narration. Because when you don't have narration, there is nobody talking to you, you will be able to talk to you as well. You will be able to have a sense of control over what you see, and you are able to communicate with yourself. And it's very important to try talking to yourself, ask questions from this deeper part that's in you. So it's basically different versions of consciousness is talking to each other. And now I'm going to talk about the way Brian Weiss sees it. I see it as the second step that I really recommend to do it, because he does the lighter version and he does many versions of it. So when he takes you back to your childhood, because there is a lot of information in your childhood as well that must be resolved. It's past life regression shouldn't be just about, okay, what happened in your past, I don't know, in a completely different life. It's very helpful when you go back one by one and you see what happened in during your childhood. You get back memories. And then also, then after that, he takes you to what happened when you were in the mother's womb, when you were born, how you felt. So it's very important always focusing on the feeling, how you felt. And the main idea behind past life regression is that it takes you back to a certain period of time when you experienced some trauma, because we usually recall traumas, but now as an adult, not as a child, because when you are a child, you label that experience in a certain way. And generally, he also asks, and this is what I love about his method, that what is your lesson that you have to learn in this life? What did you miss from, what did you carry from your past life? And only after that, he takes you back to that relevant past life that is connected to this current life. And apart from this, if you've done any of his workshops, he does other type of techniques as well. For example, when you have an illness, there is a session for that, or looking into the future. So basically, this is progression. And the next one is the quantum healing technique by Dolores Cannon. And here you skip this first part, what happened in your childhood, whatever. And they try to take you to a really, really deep state. So basically, they lower your brain waves very, very deeply. So this beginning part is going to be very, very, very long. So you slow down, your brain waves slow down, so you can tap into a deeper part of yourself and you can listen to it, what that subconscious part is trying to tell you. And this is something that is very important in past life regression, to understand that it's not about if it's true, if it's not true. If you try to see it this way, it's better not to do it, because you can't verify it. Although I found my versions and I could verify it, but it's not the key point here. The key point here is, does it help you? And it can help you if you find traumas, if you see patterns, if you see something that gives you that aha moment that can help you, show you something. And another key part here is that maybe at that moment when you do the past life regression, you don't feel the benefits, but maybe a year later or 2 years later, you are going to be able to feel that, because that's when it's going to click. Because maybe at that time, you were not ready. You did it, but in reality, you just were not ready to do that. And with this method, because you go so deep, the primary focus is the negative feelings, how you felt at that time. So I've done this with therapists, so this is something that I would highly recommend. Only do it with the therapist, because the therapist can guide you and the therapist can ask questions from you that you wouldn't think of. And this is where the healing part is, that it kind of confronts you or takes you to places you wouldn't want to see, or maybe you wouldn't even think of seeing. And they have the experience what helped other people or what might come up. But it's generally to bring off horrible experiences or negative experiences, to release that trauma. And this is what I see here as the key focus, that basically it's going to make you cry. It's going to make you suffer, relive that horrible experience you had. But as soon as you experience it, you can give another meaning to it. Of course, not every single therapist is going to do it this way, but the ones I've seen did it this way, and it was very confronting. I think this, for me, this was the most difficult, to be honest, but in the long term, this was the most beneficial for me. So it's more like a rough patch. And at the end of these sessions, usually there is a connection to the higher self, and they keep asking questions from your higher self that can help your current self, where to go, what to do, or what is deep down that you are unable to see yourself. So basically, it's breaking away from the mind, because this is the body and the mind basically. And the body has the nervous system and it remembers. There is even a book that the body keeps the trauma. The body is the one that remembers. And this is what therapists do as well. Certain types of therapies that they make you re-experience the trauma. And that's when it has to be re-experienced to link to a new way of thinking. You cannot create a new thinking on its own without experiencing the trauma itself, unfortunately. And the last version is the life between lives. I've done this quite a few times as well. This is the longest one. It's like 5-6 hours. It's unbelievably long. But it's more about getting information that would benefit you in the future. So it's more like tapping into a informational field and giving you guidance. This is where you meet your spiritual elders and stuff like that. My experience was that you are able to connect, because this is even longer. They take you very close to these delta brainwaves. You are able to connect to such a deep part of yourself that has a lot more knowledge. But here, you don't focus on the emotions, you focus on gathering information and guidance to move into your future. Again, every single therapist is going to do it somewhat differently. So your therapist might do it somewhat differently than I explained, because everyone puts his or her own spin on it. And now, as a conclusion, how to see it, what to do if you are a beginner, what to be cautious about, because there are things that can happen. So my advice is to do something on your own first, to even get used to the mechanism of it. Many past life regression therapists, when you sign up with them or you book a session, they actually even send one pre-recorded session that you can practice with. But if you do not have that, or you don't want to sign up with anyone yet, you can find so many of these sessions on YouTube, and it's completely free. So this would be the very first thing I would do. And with the regression, you have to accept that everyone will have a completely different experience. Some people will be able to just get like feelings and it's very light. Some people can get really deeply connected to a life, and it can go very, very long as well. They can get emotions, and some people just see visions. Some people don't even see visions. And you will be able to experience the differences when you've done a lot on your own as well, because not every time is going to be the same. Like even when I did a lot, like for example, I did 10 or 15 on my own, 60% of the time I got nearly nothing, or just very, very tiny bits. And I try to look the same life over and over to get a whole story of it. And this is something that you can do later on as well on your own, that you try to focus on one specific life to see it in a more holistic way. And you will be able to connect when you get to the emotion. When you focus on the emotion itself, you don't even need past life regression therapy after a while. You can just sit down, close your eyes, focus on the emotion, how you felt with that person, and you are able to communicate with that person directly, and that person can help you. This is the biggest help I have ever received, and this is my whole point of this, that when you get to a stage, you are able to connect to these people you loved in previous lives to guide you. But you can only do it, or I can only do it, when I recall that specific emotion, and that emotion becomes alive. And what you have to be aware of, this is something I want to pinpoint out. If you feel uncomfortable with the past life regression because maybe certain emotions come up, you have to be able to snap out of it. So basically you open up your eyes, you turn on the lights or something like that. It's very, very rare that it would happen, But for example, with me, there was one specific moment, and that was really scary, when I experienced my own suicide. I jumped off a bridge, and the experience was, I could feel this duality in me, that as I was walking along the bridge or something, I never felt so calm in my life. But as my present self, so I felt both, I went into such a severe panic attack I never experienced in my life. And I couldn't get out of it. I opened up my eyes, I sat up on the bed. This was something I've done on my own. And I remember I kept telling myself and shouting myself, wake up, Rita, you must wake up. You are here, you are fine. So you have to also have like a grounding technique. And this helped me, but that was really scary. It's not something you would hear, because this is not something common that would happen. But if it happens just once with you, it's good to know what to do, and that it's completely normal. And I would try, this is the second step, I would try different types of techniques, different types of therapists, to see which one suits you, because this is the most important. Nobody can tell you up front which one would suit you the most. It's like you have to try the pudding to know which one is your favorite. And this is exactly the same, that you have to try different ones and different therapists as well, because even the same style is going to be done somewhat differently. Or maybe you are at a different stage of your life and it's going to be easier with certain people because you are different. And also with people, they have energies. You also have an energy. You have an aura. And this is something that you can't predict. And it doesn't mean that certain people are bad or not bad, but maybe some people have this subconscious influence on you that make it easier. And this is something that you can't predict. Or maybe you do it online because this is just easier, and you book a session with someone and you are at the comfort of your home. So that is going to be, again, a completely different experience. But the most important takeaway from this is that if you expect that you have a lot of issues, you do one past life regression and your issues will be resolved, you are fooling yourself, because it won't happen. It's exactly like any type of therapy, other therapy, that you have to do it quite a few times to see significant results, because there is a lot of baggage, a lot of things that happened within you. This is the first thing you have to understand. And the second is that it's, again, like with any other therapy, if you are just participating, nothing will happen, to be honest. You have to be able to think about it. You have to be able to analyze it. You have to think back. You have to use your mind and create new interpretations of what happened. But maybe you won't be able to do that at that time, but you will be able to do it later on. Or maybe you do quite a few past life regression therapies, and that's when you are going to be able to see some sort of a pattern that would help you in this life. Because in reality, anything you carried forward is present in this life, and you are going to take it with you with your next life as well if you do not resolve it. And you won't be able to resolve everything. That's why certain things are going to trigger you more. That's why certain things are going to be present in your life, because those are the ones you repeated the most often in any other lives you have experienced so far. I hope this video was helpful for you, and if you have any questions, just leave it in the comments. I've really had a lot of experiences in past life regression, and see you in my next video.